The twin suns of Orvania glared down on the capital city, casting long shadows across its crystalline towers. The city was alive with movement, citizens hurrying through streets and skywalks, oblivious to the dark fleet hovering in orbit above. Alien warships, sleek and black, blocked out the light of the suns. In the royal palace, the Orvani queen, Leora, stood before a large viewing window, her eyes scanning the sky. Her hands, delicate yet strong, clenched the edge of the console. Despite her calm appearance, a storm of fear roared inside her. For centuries, the Orvani people had lived in peace. Their technology advanced, but their military weak. They had never faced an enemy like this. The alarms began to blare. Red lights flashed throughout the palace, warning of incoming attacks. The queen's advisors moved quickly, relaying orders and assessing the damage. Then, without warning, the palace doors shook violently. The warlord's troops had arrived. The Orvani guards fought bravely, but the enemy was too strong. Laser pulses cut through the air, shattering walls and sending debris flying. Queen Leora was surrounded. She reached for her communicator, but a hand grasped her shoulder. Turning, she saw a figure moving through the smoke with a confidence that seemed almost impossible. It was a human. He was tall, with short, dark hair and eyes that burned with determination. His name was Ethan. He had come through the chaos with the speed of a predator and the calm of someone who had faced impossible odds before. The Orvani queen did not know him personally, but she had heard stories of humans and their strange, unpredictable abilities. Yet nothing could have prepared her for this. Ethan assessed the situation in seconds. He ignored the debris, ducked under laser fire, and moved toward her with precise, calculated steps. He lifted her from the ground, shielding her body with his own as a pulse of energy struck near them. Dust filled the air, and the smell of burning circuits and ozone stung their noses. "We don't have much time," Ethan said, his voice steady and calm. "Follow me and don't stop." The queen hesitated for only a moment. She could see the confidence in his eyes, the unwavering focus. She had faced threats before, but never someone who seemed so fearless. Without asking more questions, she followed him. Ethan led her through the palace corridors, past rooms filled with smoke and broken furniture. He moved silently, his steps precise, avoiding guards and traps with a skill that seemed almost superhuman. Queen Leora's advisors and guards tried to follow, but many were caught in the chaos. Ethan's focus never wavered. He was not only fast, but he also seemed to anticipate the enemy's moves before they happened. Finally, they reached a large hangar where a small spacecraft waited. Its design was alien, yet Ethan moved as if he understood every system without instruction. He pulled a small device from his pocket and tapped it against the ship's control panel. Lights blinked, systems hummed, and the ship activated. "Get in," Ethan commanded. Queen Leora stepped inside, noticing the human's calm demeanor even as alarms screamed all around them. She watched him work, astonished at how he handled the complex controls with ease. The ship lifted off the ground just as the warlord's troops realized they were escaping. Ethan piloted the craft through a storm of laser fire, weaving in ways that defied logic. He ducked and rolled, dodging attacks, his human reflexes allowing him to make split-second decisions that no Orvani pilot could match. Queen Leora gripped the armrest, her heart racing but also filled with admiration. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady over the roar of the engines. Ethan glanced at her briefly, his expression calm. "Because it's the right thing to do. No one deserves to be captured or hurt when I can stop it." She looked at him in surprise. Humans often acted in ways that other species could not predict. They had courage, yes, but they also had a strange moral code. A willingness to act even when the risk was overwhelming. It was something alien leaders like her had rarely seen firsthand. The ship shot into space, leaving the planet's atmosphere. Ethan navigated through asteroid fields and debris, his hands moving over controls that even advanced Orvani pilots struggled with. Queen Leora realized that humans were more than physically strong or clever. They could see solutions where others only saw danger. Hours passed as they traveled through hyperspace. Queen Leora finally allowed herself to breathe. She looked at Ethan and realized that he had saved not only her life, but also her people's hope. He had risked everything without hesitation. She wanted to ask more about him, about how a single human could possess such skill and bravery, but the moment never came. Suddenly, a bright light filled the cabin. Ethan's hands flew over the controls. The ship shook violently. The hyperdrive was unstable. Queen Leora grabbed onto the chair, fear gripping her again. "Hold on," Ethan shouted. The ship lurched, twisted, and then everything went dark. Queen Leora felt herself being pulled into nothingness, a strange emptiness that seemed to stretch forever. She wanted to scream, to reach out, but Ethan held her close, his presence the only thing grounding her. When light returned, the stars were strange, unfamiliar constellations sparkling around them. Ethan's hands moved over the controls with precision. He had managed to bring them through the unstable jump, landing them in a remote, safe sector of the galaxy. They were alive. Queen Leora looked at Ethan, amazement in her eyes. How did you do that?" Ethan shrugged, a small smile on his face. "I guess humans have a way of surviving, even when the odds are against us." She studied him carefully. Humans were smaller in number and physically weaker in some ways compared to alien species. Yet he had just outsmarted and outrun a warlord's army. There was something remarkable about him. Something that no technology, no alien skill could replicate. "We need to get back," she said softly, thinking of her people. "They will need guidance, defense." Ethan nodded. "I'll help as much as I can. But first we rest. You need strength for what's ahead." For the next few hours they remained in the quiet of the ship. Queen Leora could not stop thinking about the human who had saved her. A stranger who risked everything without question. His bravery was extraordinary, but it was more than that. It was his heart, his quick thinking, his unpredictability. She realized that humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were something special, something to be respected. Eventually, the Queen allowed herself to close her eyes. Ethan kept watch at the controls, alert to any sign of danger. She felt a strange comfort in knowing that a human was with her, someone whose courage and skill could change the course of events. As the ship drifted through the empty stars, Queen Leora understood something that she had never truly believed before. Humans were capable of feats that even the most advanced alien civilizations could not anticipate. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and brave, and now one had saved her life. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, full of danger and wonder. And somewhere deep in her heart, the Queen knew this was only the beginning of something greater, something that could shape the future of her people forever. But before they could reach safety, before questions could be asked, something unexpected happened. A pulse of energy struck the ship's hull. Warning lights flashed. Ethan's hands flew over the controls. Queen Leora gripped her seat, unsure of what would happen next, and then, in the blink of an eye, Ethan disappeared. The Queen screamed, reaching out for him, but he was gone. The ship stabilized, but it was empty except for her. Confusion, fear, and sorrow filled her mind. Who was this human? How could someone so brave simply vanish? And why did it feel like she had lost something more than a protector? Something extraordinary. The stars continued to shine, indifferent to the loss below. Queen Leora took a deep breath. She was alive thanks to a human, and somewhere, somehow, he was out there. She did not know if she would ever see him again. The years passed slowly for Queen Leora. Orvania, though scarred by the attack, slowly rebuilt itself under her careful guidance. The palace, once shattered, rose again, taller and more beautiful than before. Crystalline towers reflected the twin suns, and the streets hummed with life. Orvani people, resilient and loyal, worked tirelessly to restore their home. Yet in the quiet moments, Leora's thoughts always returned to the human who had saved her. Ethan. His face haunted her dreams, his calm determination replaying in her mind like a memory she could not fully grasp. She often wondered where he had gone, why he had vanished without a trace. No trace of him had been found. Scouts had searched nearby systems, scanning for any signs of his ship or the unusual human signature he left in hyperspace. Nothing. It was as if he had simply melted into the stars. Stories of the human's bravery began to circulate among the Orvani people. "He saved the Queen," they would whisper. "He came from nowhere and protected us." Some called him a legend. Others called him a miracle. Leora, however, knew the truth. He was real, and he had been there with her, guiding her through danger with courage that no Orvani could match. Still, as the years went on, life moved forward. Leora focused on her people, her advisors, and her responsibilities as a ruler. She strengthened alliances with neighboring civilizations, knowing the warlord might return, seeking revenge. But her heart always remained partly empty. a quiet ache for the human who had once walked into her life and vanished. 5 years after Ethan's disappearance, strange reports began to arrive at the palace. Scouts and sensors detected a human signature far from known space, moving at speeds previously thought impossible. The readings were precise, unmistakable. Leora's heart leaped. Could it be him? She summoned her advisors immediately. Prepare the observatory. Track this signal. Find him, she commanded. Her voice carried authority, but beneath it was a thread of hope. The advisors moved quickly, using the palace's advanced tracking systems. The signal was faint, hidden behind layers of cosmic interference. Yet as hours passed, it became clearer. A single vessel moving with impossible speed and precision was approaching Orvania. Leora could hardly contain her excitement. It has to be him, she whispered to herself. She paced the chamber, the memory of Ethan's calm eyes and quick thinking filling her mind. He had saved her once. Could he have returned? Meanwhile, deep in the uncharted regions of the galaxy, Ethan's life had been anything but ordinary. The hyperdrive malfunction during his disappearance had thrown him into a sector of space few had ever visited. Here, nebulae glowed with strange colors and rogue asteroids drifted like silent guardians. Dangerous alien creatures lurked in the void, and remnants of old civilizations, long dead, floated silently through the darkness. For 5 years, Ethan had survived. He had scavenged ancient starships, learned the language and technology of lost species, and fought off threats that would have destroyed any ordinary being. Yet through it all, he never forgot Orvania, never forgot the queen who had trusted him with her life. Humans, unlike other species, adapted quickly. Ethan's mind worked tirelessly to solve every challenge, every trap, every threat. He repaired broken engines, decoded alien signals, and found ways to survive when resources were scarce. His skill, patience, and ingenuity were unmatched. Where other beings would have failed, he thrived. But it was not just survival that kept him going. It was purpose. He remembered Leora's words, her calm trust, and the moment she had leaned on him expecting him to lead her to safety. He had promised in his own way that he would return. And now, after 5 long years, the chance had finally come. The signal that reached Orvania was his. The ship appeared suddenly in the sky, small but unmistakable, moving with a precision that only Ethan could manage. Leora and her advisors watched as it descended, careful not to cause panic among the citizens below. When the vessel landed, the hatch opened slowly. Leora stepped forward, her heart pounding. And then she saw him. Ethan stepped out. His uniform was worn, his face weathered from years in the void, but his eyes were the same. Calm, determined, and filled with that strange human courage that no alien had ever truly understood. Ethan, Leora breathed, her voice trembling with relief and wonder. He smiled faintly. It's been a long journey. The queen stepped closer, studying him carefully. 5 years. Why did you disappear? Where have you been? Ethan hesitated. His eyes swept across the horizon, thinking carefully about what he could reveal. The galaxy is bigger than we imagine, he said finally. I had to survive. And I found something important. Something that could threaten more than just Orvania. Leora's eyes widened. A threat? What do you mean? Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. A fleet is moving through unknown sectors. They are planning to conquer or destroy civilizations. I've seen them. I've studied them. If we do not act, countless lives will be at risk. The queen felt a chill run through her. Her people had rebuilt their world, but now she realized the danger was far greater than she had imagined. Then we must prepare, she said firmly. We cannot let them destroy everything. Ethan nodded. That's why I returned. We need a plan, and we need allies. The Orvani cannot fight alone. Leora looked at him with admiration. He had survived the impossible, traveled farther than any Orvani, and returned with knowledge that could save or doom the galaxy. Humans were unpredictable, capable of feats no alien mind could imagine, and now one had returned to stand beside her. Over the following days, Ethan worked with Leora and her advisors. He shared his knowledge of the enemy fleet, describing their technology, tactics, and weaknesses. The queen listened intently, fascinated by how a human mind could perceive threats and solutions in ways her people had never considered. He thinks differently, she remarked to one of her senior advisors. Humans, they do not follow patterns the way we do. They see possibilities we cannot even imagine. That is why he survived and why he returned. That is why he is extraordinary. Ethan also began exploring Orvania's defenses, combining human intuition with alien technology. He discovered ways to enhance energy shields, improve weapon targeting systems, and coordinate multiple fleets at once, strategies the Orvani military had never considered. His approach was unconventional, sometimes reckless but always effective. As days turned into weeks, the Queen and Ethan developed a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Leora admired not only his courage but also his patience, his intelligence, and his willingness to risk everything for others. Ethan, in turn, respected her wisdom, leadership, and the loyalty she inspired in her people. Together they formed a bond that was stronger than mere alliance. It was mutual understanding, a recognition of humanity's unique place in the galaxy. Despite the calm, both knew the threat loomed ever closer. Reports from distant systems indicated that the enemy fleet was advancing, unstoppable by conventional tactics. Only ingenuity, courage, and unity could turn the tide. And in that realization, the Queen understood that humans were more than allies. They were catalysts for hope, sparks that could ignite entire civilizations to action. One night, Leora stood alone on the palace terrace, staring at the stars. She thought of Ethan and the years he had spent in the void, surviving when others would have perished. She realized that his return was not just luck. It was proof of the extraordinary resilience and adaptability of humans. And she also understood something deeper. The galaxy had changed, and so had she, for the first time in 5 years. She allowed herself to feel hope, not just for Orvania, but for all the civilizations threatened by the Dark Fleet. Humans, she realized, could turn the impossible into reality. And now one human had returned to her side, ready to face whatever came next. As the twin suns set over the city, casting golden light across the crystal towers, the Queen whispered to the wind, "Welcome back, Ethan. The galaxy needs you, and so do I." The stars above Orvania seemed to shimmer in response, a silent acknowledgement that something extraordinary had returned to the galaxy. The void of years had ended. And with Ethan back, the story of courage, ingenuity, and humanity was just beginning. The morning suns rose over Orvania, casting a golden light on the rebuilt city. Queen Leora stood in her strategy room, a large holographic map of the galaxy suspended in the air before her. Stars, planets, and trade routes shimmered in delicate blue lines, but a dark blotch at the edge of the map drew her attention. "That is the fleet," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. He leaned over the map, pointing to the dark cluster moving steadily through space. They've been gathering strength in a sector unmonitored by most civilizations. Their numbers are larger than any fleet we have faced before, and their ships are faster, more durable, and armed with weapons capable of destroying entire colonies. Queen Leora's eyes narrowed. She had faced threats before, but the scale of this one was unprecedented. "And you are certain of this?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "I've followed their movements for years. They are methodical and merciless. If we do not act, Orvania will not be the only target. Several allied systems could be destroyed before anyone notices." The Queen's gaze softened as she studied him. Humans, she realized, were more than strong or clever. They had foresight in a way no other species did. They could predict patterns, adapt quickly, and see solutions beyond conventional thinking. Ethan had not only survived in unknown space for 5 years, but he had also learned the enemy's ways, studied their tactics, and returned with knowledge that could save countless lives. "Then we must prepare," Leora said firmly. "We cannot wait for them to strike." Ethan's eyes scanned the map. "We will need more than defense. We will need allies. Many civilizations will hesitate to join until they see a strategy that works. We need to inspire confidence, and we need to act before the enemy reaches populated systems." The Queen nodded. "Begin your preparations. I will convene the Council of Allied Leaders. They will need to see your plans." For the next several days, Ethan worked tirelessly alongside Orvania's top engineers, strategists, and military commanders. Using his human intuition and unconventional thinking, he suggested modifications to ships, energy shields, and fleet formations. He emphasized adaptability over rigid protocol, teaching the Orvani to anticipate unexpected attacks and respond with precision. "We cannot predict everything," Ethan explained one evening, pointing to a holographic simulation of an incoming enemy strike. But we can predict our responses. Humans survive not because they know the future, but because they adapt faster than anyone else. Leora observed him quietly, realizing how extraordinary he truly was. Aliens had long considered humans fragile and inexperienced. Yet here was one human who had faced countless dangers and emerged stronger, teaching even the most advanced alien minds to think differently. During their planning, reports came in from neighboring systems. The enemy fleet had already destroyed 2 small colonies, leaving no survivors. Panic spread through the region, but Ethan remained calm. "Fear is the enemy," he said to Leora. "We cannot let it control our decisions. We must act logically, but also creatively. That is the human advantage." The Queen realized that he was right. The Orvani were strong, but their methods relied on strict procedure and cautious diplomacy. Ethan's approach, fast thinking, improvisation, and bold action, was exactly what they needed to survive. Meanwhile, Ethan began sending discreet messages to other civilizations. He used codes, signs, and subtle signals to communicate his strategy and request support. Some species were skeptical, wary of humans and their unpredictable nature. Others were inspired by his courage and resourcefulness, choosing to join the alliance before seeing full proof of his plan. In the palace, the Council of Allied Leaders convened. Leaders from distant planets, some towering and intimidating, others small and swift, filled the grand chamber. Murmurs of doubt and curiosity filled the air. Ethan stepped forward, his presence commanding yet unassuming. "Leaders of the Allied worlds," he began, his voice steady. "You have heard of the threat approaching. It is real, it is powerful, and it will not wait for us to prepare. But we are not helpless. We have the knowledge, the resources, and the courage to fight back. Together we can stop them." Some leaders exchanged skeptical glances. One alien commander, massive and covered in scales, hissed, "How can we trust a human?" "You have only one fleet. How do you propose we survive against hundreds?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans survive because they do not rely on numbers alone. We rely on strategy, ingenuity, and the ability to turn even weakness into strength. I have spent years studying this enemy. I know how they think. I know their strengths and their flaws. And together we can exploit them." Queen Leora watched as the room fell silent. There was something compelling in Ethan's words, something more than confidence. It was clarity and vision. The leaders could see it, and slowly, nods of agreement began to spread. For the next several weeks, the alliance prepared. Fleets were upgraded, supply lines reinforced, and communication networks synchronized. Ethan oversaw every detail, moving among engineers and pilots, offering advice and inspiration. His human perspective proved invaluable. Where aliens relied on rigid calculations, he introduced unpredictability, teaching fleets to act in ways the enemy would not anticipate. But not all preparation was technical. Ethan also spent time with the Queen, discussing the moral responsibilities of leadership and war. "We cannot just win battles," he said one evening as they watched Orvania's twin suns set. "We must win the hearts and trust of the people. They will follow us only if they believe we are capable, not just powerful." Leora nodded, understanding. Leadership was more than tactics and fleets. It was vision, inspiration, and courage. And humans, she realized, often embodied these qualities in ways aliens could not. One night, as the stars twinkled above Orvania, Ethan worked alone in the observatory, scanning the far reaches of space. He detected the enemy fleet again, closer than ever. Their approach was faster than predicted, and time was running short. He called Leora urgently. "They're moving faster. If we do not act now, they could reach populated systems before we are ready." The Queen joined him, her expression serious but calm. "Then we act." "We cannot wait. Your plan?" "It must work," Ethan turned to her. "It will. But it will require boldness, precision, and trust. Are you ready to lead alongside me?" Leora met his gaze. "I have no choice but to be ready. And I trust you, Ethan. Humans are strange, unpredictable, but extraordinary. If anyone can help us survive, it is you." Ethan smiled faintly, his usual calm returning. "Then let's begin." The next morning, fleets from across the galaxy gathered near Orvania. Ships of all shapes and sizes, piloted by diverse species, waited for Ethan's command. The Queen watched from her palace terrace, feeling the weight of the moment. The enemy fleet was still days away, but the stage was set for a confrontation that would decide the fate of countless worlds. Ethan moved among the ships, issuing instructions, adjusting formations, and checking systems. His presence inspired confidence even in the most skeptical commanders. Aliens who had doubted humans now recognized the value of human ingenuity, courage, and leadership. As night fell, Ethan and Leora stood together on Orvania's highest tower. The twin suns had set, leaving the stars to shine brightly overhead. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, filled with danger and opportunity. "They are coming," Leora said softly. "Yes," Ethan replied, eyes scanning the stars. "But we are ready. Humans survive because we face the impossible, adapt, and fight with everything we have. And so will we." The Queen studied him, realizing that the human who had rescued her years ago was more than a hero. He was a symbol of hope, a reminder that courage, intelligence, and determination could change the fate of the galaxy. Somewhere deep in the darkness of space, the enemy fleet advanced, unaware that their greatest challenge was not just the strength of the Orvani or their allies, but the unpredictable brilliance of a human mind. The return of Ethan marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where humans were no longer observers of the galaxy's events but active participants shaping its destiny. And when the first signals of battle reached Orvania's sensors, the Queen and Ethan exchanged a look filled with understanding, trust, and determination. Together, they would face the threat not as alien and human, but as leaders united by courage, vision, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest void, humans could shine brighter than the stars themselves. The galaxy seemed unusually quiet as the Allied fleets gathered near Orvania. Ethan moved among the ships, his sharp eyes scanning every detail. Alien leaders, pilots, and engineers worked diligently, adjusting energy shields, reprogramming weapons, and coordinating logistics. The scale of preparation was immense, but Ethan's calm presence brought focus to the chaos. Queen Leora stood on the observation deck of her palace, overlooking the fleets in orbit. Ships of different sizes and designs, representing countless civilizations, hovered in perfect formation. Some vessels were elegant and fast, others massive and heavily armored. Yet despite the differences, a sense of unity hung in the air. This alliance was unprecedented, and it owed its cohesion largely to a single human who had returned after 5 long years. Ethan walked beside her, hands clasped behind his back. "The key is coordination," he said. "Each species has strengths and weaknesses. We cannot rely solely on technology or numbers. We must use strategy, adaptability, and trust." Leora nodded. "I see that. Humans think differently, Ethan. You see solutions that no alien mind could anticipate. It is remarkable," he smiled faintly. "We survive by being unpredictable. That's our advantage, and now we use it to protect the galaxy." The first step in Ethan's plan was to train the Allied pilots and soldiers. He organized simulations that tested their reflexes, decision-making, and ability to adapt to unexpected scenarios. Alien commanders were initially skeptical. Some doubted a human could teach them anything useful, especially strategies unfamiliar to their own species. But Ethan's methods quickly proved effective. He introduced unconventional maneuvers like unpredictable formations and false retreats, teaching the fleets to deceive the enemy and anticipate counterattacks. Slowly, the skepticism faded. Pilots began to admire his ingenuity. Engineers marveled at his quick problem-solving, and commanders saw the results in simulations that repeatedly outsmarted the enemy models. "You are showing us new ways to fight," one alien leader admitted. His voice was deep, resonating like a drum. "Your tactics are strange but effective." "The humans are unpredictable indeed," Ethan nodded. "Predictability is a weakness. The more we control the outcome, the more predictable we become. Adaptability is our greatest weapon." While training continued, Ethan also focused on diplomacy. Some civilizations were hesitant to join the alliance, wary of humans or unwilling to trust in strategies they could not fully understand. Ethan used negotiation, reasoning, and subtle persuasion to bring them on board. He spoke not just of the danger ahead but of hope, unity, and the possibility of survival through collaboration. Queen Leora watched him carefully. "Your methods are human," she said. "You rely on instinct, intuition, and courage. It is not what we are used to, but it works." Ethan smiled. "Humans survive in the worst conditions. That's how we operate. And now we are not just surviving, we are protecting countless lives." Once the fleets were trained, Ethan moved on to testing their coordination. He staged a series of practice maneuvers, simulating enemy attacks in real time. Energy blasts lit up space as ships dodged, countered, and struck in perfect synchronization. Each maneuver was designed to test their ability to react quickly to unpredictable situations. During one simulation, an unexpected problem arose. A small fleet of alien vessels lost communication due to a technical glitch. Panic began to spread, but Ethan reacted instantly. He rerouted instructions through other ships, adjusted their formations, and guided the isolated fleet back into position, all without losing a moment. The exercise ended successfully, leaving the commanders and pilots impressed. "You saved them," one alien pilot said, his eyes wide with respect. "No one else could have done that in time." Ethan shrugged. "Humans adapt quickly. That's what we do." As preparations continued, intelligence reports confirmed that the enemy fleet was nearing their first target, a colony at the edge of a nearby system. The Allied fleets were ready, but the challenge ahead would test every skill, every strategy, and every ounce of courage. Ethan and Leora convened a meeting to finalize the plans. Holographic maps displayed the enemy approach, showing ships moving with speed and precision. Ethan studied the formations carefully, pointing out weaknesses and patterns the aliens had missed. "They expect direct confrontation," he explained. "They believe superior firepower will win the battle. But humans know better. We can use their confidence against them." Queen Leora raised an eyebrow. "How?" Ethan smiled faintly. "By being unpredictable. We will divide our forces, create decoys, and use their aggression to lead them into traps. Then when they least expect it, we strike." The Queen studied him, understanding that his plan required absolute trust from every species involved. "It will be dangerous," she said. "But it is brilliant. I trust you, Ethan. Lead them." The battle began at dawn. Orvania's twin suns bathed the fleets in light as they advanced toward the first colony. Enemy scouts were quickly detected, and the Alliance prepared for confrontation. Ethan's strategies unfolded perfectly. He directed smaller, faster fleets to act as decoys, drawing enemy attention while the main force struck from unexpected angles. Alien pilots trained in unconventional human tactics performed maneuvers that the enemy could not anticipate. Explosions lit the void as the enemy ships were caught off guard, forced into disarray by unpredictable attacks. Queen Leora watched in awe as humans and aliens fought side by side, executing Ethan's strategies flawlessly. His adaptability and quick thinking turned potential disaster into opportunity. During a critical moment, the enemy deployed a massive strike force aimed directly at the colony. Sensors detected that a shield would not withstand the attack. Ethan acted instantly. He rerouted energy from decoy ships, created a temporary barrier using unorthodox methods, and guided Allied vessels to intercept the enemy. The shield held and the colony was saved. Alien commanders marveled at his decision-making. "No one could have thought of that," one whispered to a colleague. "Humans, they are incredible." By nightfall, the enemy had retreated, suffering heavy losses. The Allied fleets regrouped, their confidence soaring. Humans, through Ethan, had shown that courage, adaptability, and ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable adversaries. Queen Leora approached Ethan as the fleets celebrated. "You have done something remarkable," she said softly. "Not only have we survived, but we have inspired hope. You have united us in ways I could not have imagined." Ethan looked at her calmly. "Humans do not seek glory. We do what is necessary, but this is just the beginning. The enemy will return stronger. We must remain vigilant." Leora nodded. She knew he was right. The first victory had been won, but the war was far from over. Yet for the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope. A belief that together, with humans and allies united, they could face any threat. The next day, the fleets repaired damage, resupplied, and prepared for further attacks. Ethan continued to train pilots, refine strategies, and coordinate resources. His human perspective transformed the Alliance from a group of separate civilizations into a cohesive force, capable of thinking and acting as one. Queen Leora reflected on the past 5 years, the loss, the rebuilding, and now the return of the human who had changed everything. Ethan's courage, skill, and intuition had saved her people, and countless others. Humans were not the strongest species, nor the fastest or the most technologically advanced, but their ingenuity, adaptability, and heart set them apart. As night fell, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting Orvania in golden light. The Queen and Ethan stood side by side looking at the stars. "The enemy will come again," Leora said softly. "They will," Ethan replied. "But we will be ready. Humans survive because we face the impossible and adapt. And now we fight together, with courage, with strategy, and with hope." The stars above shimmered as if acknowledging the unity below. A human had returned not just as a hero, but as a symbol of what was possible when courage, intelligence, and determination combined. And in the heart of the galaxy, a new alliance stood ready, prepared to face the darkness and protect countless lives. The story of the human who rescued the Queen, disappeared for 5 years and returned to lead the galaxy's defenders was only just beginning, and the galaxy itself seemed to hum with anticipation, ready to witness the extraordinary capabilities of humanity. The night sky over Orvania was dark and silent, but tension hung thick in the air. The Allied fleets were in position, waiting for the enemy to make their move. Stars sparkled above like distant diamonds, but for those below, every blinking light could mean danger. Ethan stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of approaching enemy ships. The fleet stretched across the display, hundreds of vessels moving in formation, their energy weapons glowing ominously. Queen Leora joined him quietly. She had spent weeks alongside him, observing his strategies, learning his methods, and witnessing the human ability to see solutions where others only saw danger. Now the moment of truth had arrived. "They are stronger than we expected," Leora said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but they are predictable in their confidence. They believe their power guarantees victory. That is our advantage. Humans survive because we adapt faster than anyone, and today we fight as one." The enemy fleet was massive, faster, and more heavily armed than the Allied forces. Yet Ethan had prepared every detail, every maneuver, every contingency. His plan relied on deception, unpredictability, and precise timing, qualities uniquely human. "All units, follow the plan exactly," Ethan commanded, his voice calm but resolute. "Trust each other, trust your instincts, and adapt if necessary. We survive by being unpredictable. We fight to win." The first strike came without warning. Enemy ships fired energy beams that illuminated the void like a deadly fireworks display. The Allied fleets dodged, split, and regrouped according to Ethan's plan. Decoy ships led enemy forces into traps, while smaller, faster vessels struck from unexpected angles. The battle was chaotic, terrifying, and beautiful in its complexity. Explosions tore through space, lighting up the darkness as ships collided, shields flared, and weapons fired. Alien pilots marveled at the human strategies in play, maneuvers that no conventional mind could anticipate, decisions made in seconds that saved entire fleets from destruction. During a critical moment, a large enemy cruiser broke through the front lines and aimed directly at Orvania's capital. Sensors detected that no shield could withstand its energy cannons. Panic threatened to spread among the Allies, but Ethan reacted instantly. He issued rapid commands, rerouted energy to decoy ships, and created a temporary energy corridor using unconventional methods. Allied ships moved with precision, striking the enemy cruiser from angles it could not defend against. The cruiser faltered, its weapons misfiring, and finally exploded in a dazzling burst of energy. Alien commanders stared in awe. "No one could have done that," one whispered. "Humans, they are incredible." Ethan did not celebrate. He continued scanning, analyzing, and predicting the enemy's next moves. Every decision was calculated but flexible, adaptable in ways no alien command structure could match. Queen Leora watched from the observation deck, her heart racing. Humans were often underestimated, considered fragile and impulsive. Yet Ethan had shown her that humans were capable of extraordinary feats. Courage, ingenuity, and resilience combined in ways that could tip the balance of entire battles. The enemy fleet, despite its size, was being forced to retreat. Their formations broke, communication faltered, and morale wavered as Allied ships executed unconventional maneuvers that no alien mind could have predicted. Ethan seized the opportunity. "Focus all firepower on the enemy command ships," he ordered. "Cut their coordination. Once they lose leadership, they will crumble." Allied ships followed the command. Laser beams, missiles, and energy pulses struck the command vessels, disabling shields and propulsion systems. Within hours, the enemy fleet was in chaos, scattered across space and vulnerable to a final strike. Amid the battle, Ethan noticed a small, fast vessel moving toward Orvania's core systems, an enemy agent attempting sabotage. Without hesitation, he piloted his own craft, intercepting the enemy ship in a daring maneuver that mirrored the impossible feats he had performed 5 years ago when rescuing the Queen. The interception was flawless. Ethan's human intuition and reflexes outmatched the enemy pilot's training. The small vessel was destroyed, neutralizing the threat to Orvania. As the battle reached its climax, Ethan coordinated a simultaneous strike from multiple directions, drawing the remaining enemy ships into an energy trap. Shields overloaded, engines failed, and one by one the enemy vessels exploded in bursts of light that painted the darkness of space. The Allied fleets regrouped, battered but victorious. Orvania remained safe and countless civilizations were spared destruction. The enemy had been defeated not merely through firepower but through ingenuity, adaptability, and the human ability to think beyond conventional limits. Queen Leora descended to the battlefield's edge, meeting Ethan as he returned from his final mission. Dust and energy sparkled in the atmosphere, remnants of the battle. She looked at him, awe and gratitude shining in her eyes. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved us all." Ethan shook his head. "We did it. Humans can't win alone. The strength of the Alliance, the courage of every pilot, every soldier, every citizen, it made this possible. I just guided them," Leora smiled. "Guided them, yes. But your guidance, your strategies, no one else could have imagined them. Humans are extraordinary. You have shown that today." He looked at her quietly, knowing that words could not fully capture the magnitude of what had happened. "We survived because we adapted. Humans survive because we do not surrender to fear. And sometimes we return when we are needed most." The Queen studied him, realizing the truth in his words. Humans were more than just another species. They embodied courage, intelligence, and unpredictability that could change the fate of worlds. Ethan had returned after 5 years of mystery, faced unimaginable dangers, and led them all to victory. Celebrations erupted across Orvania and the Allied systems. Messages of hope, bravery, and unity spread through the galaxy. Humans, once underestimated, were hailed as extraordinary allies, capable of feats that even the most advanced civilizations could not anticipate. Despite the victory, Ethan remained calm. He continued assisting Allied forces, repairing damage and ensuring coordination among fleets. His presence inspired confidence, courage, and trust. Humans had survived, yes, but they had also shown the galaxy what it meant to face impossible odds with ingenuity and heart. That night, as Orvania's twin suns rose again, Leora and Ethan stood together on the palace terrace. The city below was alive with celebrations, light, and laughter. Ships of all kinds hovered overhead, signaling victory and unity. "Humans, they are remarkable," Leora said quietly. Ethan looked at her, a small smile forming. "We survive, we adapt. We fight when we must, and we return when we are needed. That is who we are," she nodded. "And you? You returned when we needed you most. You have changed everything, Ethan. Not just for Orvania, but for the galaxy." He looked up at the stars, the endless expanse of space that had once swallowed him for 5 years. "The galaxy is vast, but it is worth protecting. And humans, well, we can be better than anyone expects." In the aftermath of the battle, the alliance strengthened. Communication, trade, and cooperation between civilizations flourished. Humans, through Ethan's bravery and ingenuity, were no longer seen as minor players in the galaxy. They were recognized as capable, resourceful, and essential partners in maintaining peace and defending against future threats. Queen Leora watched Ethan one last time that night. She realized that the human who had rescued her, disappeared and returned, was not just a hero, he was a symbol. Courage, ingenuity, and determination could change the fate of worlds. Humanity, in all its unpredictability and brilliance, had become a beacon of hope. The twin suns of Orvania rose once more, bathing the city in light. The stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the triumph below. And in that light, Ethan and the Queen stood together, knowing that the impossible had been achieved, not by strength alone, but by courage, unity, and the extraordinary potential of humans. The galaxy would remember this day, the day a human returned, led the alliance, and proved that even against impossible odds, humanity could triumph And somewhere deep in the stars, the legend of Ethan, the human who saved an alien queen, disappeared for 5 years and returned to stand before her again, would inspire generations to come.